Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our open house, for the Critical Matter Group. We are very excited to have you all join us. And so our plan today is to start with me briefly talk about Critical Matter Group, and then I pass it on to our group members. They will talk about the member experience and the application process. And then we hopefully have about 20 to 25 minutes Q&A. Thank you for joining, and we hope that this session is going to be very helpful for your application process. So we are Critical Matter Group here at MIT Media Lab. My name is Behnaz Farahi. I'm the director of the group. We are 1 year, we started 1 year ago here at MIT Media Lab. We work at the intersection of design, technology, and we address how technology could be used in order to address larger social, cultural, and environmental issues of our time. So we use technology for addressing larger issues, not using technology just for the sake of technology, but it's important for us to use design and art and technology for addressing larger issues of our time. With that introduction, I want to mention that the name of our group, Critical Matter, has two different meanings. Firstly, it refers to critical matter, critical issue, critical thinking, and critical theory, but also it refers to essential material research. So we are interested in how we can explore the intersection between these two words to see how we can develop novel material design, but also addressing larger critical issues of our time. Being a designer in our group means to be completely interdisciplinary. And we look at this diagram as a way of how we would like every individuals to operate in the group, to fluidly change from engineering to science to design and arts. So a lot of time, for instance, material science has been so separate from social sciences and humanities. In our group, we hope that we can really move fluidly across these axes. We are looking at these dualities while matter ground us in the body, feeling ground us in mind. One is somatic, the other is semantic. One belongs to nature, the other to culture. So at the Critical Matter Group, we're really hoping to bring these two words together more and more and bridge the gap more and more. So from theoretical perspective, what is very important for us, we're looking at matter from either living matter or non-living matter to address human identity. In that identity, we are looking at the notion of self-identity, collective identity, as well as relational identity. And we look at this identity formation through four lenses: emotions, perceptions, memory, and lastly, AI and ethics. So each of these topics are fascinating to us. And in the group, we are looking at basically exploring these ideas. In this diagram, you're seeing on the top, we have critical, on the bottom, we have matter. So we are exploring the tension between these two words, and we are looking at the space in between through the lens of emotions, perceptions, memories, AI, and ethics. We've done a number of projects, both in my own creative practice before I joined Media Lab. I have trained as an architect myself and did my PhD in interdisciplinary media arts at USC. And I taught in the design department for 4 years in California. And then I joined here last year, where I am assistant professor as well as director of the Critical Matter Group here in Media Lab. Just very briefly, the notion of gaze and surveillance and emotion is something that is really fascinating to us. Previously, I've done a CAPE, Caress of the Gaze, where it responds to onlookers' gaze. I would argue that it's not only a piece of innovation, but it addresses larger gender social issues, such as the male gaze on the female body. So if you're the wearer, you know which part of your body is being looked at. If you're the onlooker, you know that your action is being noticed. With a similar foundation, last semester, we did a project called Gaze to the Stars. Gaze to the Star transformed the MIT Great Dome to a storytelling vehicle. We collected 200 eyes and 200 stories using AI-powered sensory pod. And over 3 nights, we projected all these eyes with encoded secret messages into MIT Dome. The project beyond the projection also lives as a data visualization where we found common patterns between all the shared experiences, all the shared stories, to find common patterns between all these stories. So if you're interested, we encourage you go to the gazetothestar.com to discover the current state of the projects as a data visualizations. This was an incredible project where we did last semester, but it was also an incredible opportunity for us as a team to work together. And I really love to show this because this is the essence of our group. We design, we make, we build, we prototype things together. As a PI of this research group, I'm not usually hands-off, but I love to work, engage, and actually we work all together to create something that it's meaningful, that it brings us together. So this was an example of how a team of 14 students, graduate and undergraduate, work together very tightly to make this project happen, which I'm sure Sergio will speak more about it as well. So just to briefly mention the behind the scene of this project, we build the sensory pod. We also use AI system for tracking the iris, pupil location. We collected all the stories in terms of conversation that they had with the AI system. And we summarize all those stories. We develop a pipeline, like a framework where we can automatically segment all the eyes, automatically map every hidden, every message inside the iris using the Braille language. And then we export that as a video. And then we use Blender for creating final animation, stitching all these 200 eyes with their encoded messages as one continuous video. We also spend a lot of time on AI, training the AI based on meditation teachers to make sure that we create a soothing environment for the visitors. And finally, this is showing how it was shown on the dome over 3 nights. We took over where from the city of Boston, you could, across the Charles River, you could see these giant eyes giving the voice and empowering the community to use the institutional building, the MIT Great Dome, as a vehicle for sharing the story of loss, grief, dream, struggle, emotions. All of those stories could be shared. So this is showing the visualization. You can go to the Gaze to the Star. I'll encourage you to discover that on your own. But I'm going to skip to our, this is the profile of the group members for Gaze to the Stars, which was very exciting. It was an amazing opportunity for us to work really closely together, but also celebrate when the projects actually was executed. The image on the left side shows the group. Our current member, you can see, and the past members. So over the year, we already had many students that they came from undergraduate to graduate. We have a number of visiting students also in the group that without their help, none of these projects would have been possible. I want to briefly mention that we are open to get 2 to 3 new students for the group for the upcoming year. Specifically, obviously, we are looking for all disciplines, but we are also specifically looking for people who can show that they are critical designers, critical technologists, or they have experience with robotic fabrication / digital fabrication. We're equally interested in biodesign and biomaterials. And lastly, physical computing, sensing, sensor technologies, and AI. And now you might have experience with one or two of them. If it's more than one, great. If it's only one of them and that's your strength, we still encourage you to apply. Even if it's not listed here, but you think that your backgrounds or your work is relevant to the type of work that we do in the group, we highly encourage you to apply. For application, we definitely need a portfolio of creative work. So it's very important. I understand that in some engineering departments, you can only have CV, but for our group, it's required to have a portfolio of creative work. So with that, I'm going to pass to Sergio. I'm going to stop sharing, Sergio, and let you take over.
Here we go. All right. I'll share also video, yes, right. Yeah, my computer is not working well, so I'm using Sergio's. But yeah, hello, I'm Sergio. I'm a Colombian architect, researcher, and computational designer. And I work on alternatives for like human habitation through robotics, digital fabrication, and artificial intelligence. I have a background in architecture. I studied in Colombia, and then I went to UCL in London to do more like a robotic architecture course. Then worked for a little bit in this company called Zaha Hadid Architects and taught at UCL, Imperial College London, and the Royal College of Art. And now at MIT, I'm doing a dual degree in architectural computation and in electrical engineering and computer science, but also working at the Critical Matter Group. So I'll go over like two projects I worked with to give you like a sense of what is it like to work on the group. So this was Gates to the Stars. So I was part of that team. I was particularly in charge of the surroundings of the pod. So I joined the group as outside of the media lab, let's say, for this particular project. I was leading like a small group with like some undergrads in developing like the outside of this pod where people would like interact with AI and we would capture their eyes for the later installation. So this is like at the beginning, we're just like making a lot of ideas very quickly. In the group, we like brainstorming a lot, testing a lot of ideas, visualizing them. So yeah, we experiment and then we also would like prototype all of these ideas, like how are we making these tubes, how are we joining them, looking at what we would buy and going over until we got like a good idea of what we were doing. So this is a little bit of the fabrication that Ben also already showed. So working with the team and assembling things hands-on is a great part of the experience. So most of the things we do also have this like physical aspect to them, which make them, I think, very exciting. So yeah, this is working with the team to assemble the enclosure for the pod. I think Ben also appeared there for a second. Yeah. So this is kind of how it resulted, which was super exciting after all the work in a very small amount of time, because we got the commission for Gates to the Stars, and like in a few weeks we had to deliver. So this is the end result, and of course the images that you were seeing in the projection. And this was also like at a time in the group that was very exciting because everybody's work came together in this like monumental piece that's also like at the heart of MIT. So it was like a super exciting time for us. And then related to that, so like the work we do could also end up in publications or in competitions. So we wrote 3 papers for this project, and I'll be traveling to Bangkok later this year to the Media Architecture Biennale. So that's also like an aspect that you might find if you join the group. And then this other project that we were working on, that I'm working on currently, is like about robotic fabrication. So more into the material science part and like looking at creating new fabrication methods again, super hands-on, experimenting a lot. We have a couple robots in this space, and we can use them to do all these like interesting explorations, looking at how we can turn this material research into applications or into art pieces, and playing with materials and with fabrication methods to do so. Jump to the next. So here are some of the prototypes, like again, playing a lot with like physical objects, making a lot, in this case, a lot of like wearables. And I think that in general, this like space and this group is like a hub for creativity. So we all the time are exploring, iterating, testing, experimenting. We have like fantastic fabrication spaces at the Media Lab. And there's this like culture of like making things and demoing them and like demonstrate that they work. That is very exciting. So for instance, we have this thing called Members Week, where companies come over and see our work, and everybody's like showcasing all the demos, and you can go to the other groups and see what they are doing. So it's a very exciting time. And that shows a little bit of the culture. Another thing that's very exciting about the Media Lab in general is that this like cross-disciplinary collaboration. So I designed these robots that like assemble stuff, and then a different director from a different group, Neil Wood from Space Enabled, saw them, and they had like this project that's educational project that's with NASA and all these like collaborators, and they invited me to participate using our robots. So we have like middle school students coding my robots as part of like a competition. So these things are the sort of things that happen at the Media Lab. So we have all these different labs that do different things. They have their own specialties, but because we share the same roof and the same fabrication spaces, we collaborate a lot, which is very exciting. And a little more of the team. So I've been with the lab for almost a year now, and yeah, I feel like it's a very diverse team. So people come from different places, from different schools. So we have visiting students from Harvard. We have undergrads all over MIT. Of course, the media arts and sciences graduate students, but also, for instance, I come from a different department, and it's very, very exciting and diverse. There's lots of like energy about making stuff. People are very curious. Everybody has their own like specialty, and their work is super exciting. So yeah, and that in general, the vibes have been quite unique, and I've enjoyed it all. So at the end, when we go to the questions, if you have questions about what's the experience of working here, feel free to ask me. And that's it. And I'll be handing over to Sebia.
Hello, everyone. I'm Seb Beer. I'm a first-year MES student and a research assistant in the critical matter group. And I describe myself as a critical technologist working in the intersection of the ethics and politics of computation, AI engineering, and HCI. I moved here from Korea 3 months ago, and I moved here after finishing my undergrad, where I spent my time between HCI research. And today I will quickly share about my background, what I submitted for my application for Media Lab, and how interviews work for me, and a few honest tips about the Media Lab life generally. Okay, yeah, this video was... Yeah, let me start with 3 projects that shape how I think. First, this is a media art, AI-driven collective testimony about military sexual slavery during the World War II. As survivor passed away, we asked about how can our generation continue their testimony. So we built a 3D virtual environment and interaction traces and recorded reflections of the visitors, and they were fed into an AI system, and it was an archive of collective testimonies about this unsolved history. Yeah, and second, I did a lot of HCI research, and my HCI work were focused on how technology can empower marginalized communities. So I collaborated with special education teachers to use multimodal AI for emotion expression training with autistic children. And I also worked with survivors and activists to prototype technical interventions against deepfake sexual abuse. So methodologically, I use participatory design, like centering the community's voice in each step of the process. And beyond this, I also care about the algorithm layer. So as a Smilegate AI membership, I developed a debiasing approach to mitigate gender bias in children's fairy tale data sets. So between media art, system, and algorithm, I work to center the voices of marginalized and design with them, not for them. So grounded on this my projects, my MAS application framed the core research question to what makes us human and which aspects of humanity should AI strive to augment. So I propose 3 sub-questions that dig into hierarchy and prejudice embedded in technology, how like those structures get reproduced by technology, how they can be surfaced, and how they might be dismantled through design engineering and media art. Yeah, so I will go briefly about my application process and materials. For my SOP, I opened each project with a why question, why this question matters in today's social technical landscape, and then describe what I built, what I learned, and which new research question that worked unlocked. So if you are writing yours, be explicit about the problem you want to tackle, why it matters in this era, and your unique role in tackling it, and how your past work has prepared you to actually do it in this Media Lab. And second, for the portfolio, I made a interactive website that didn't just show outcomes, but I curated them with a why question. So I showed my motivations, process, and research interactions. So I tried to make the site itself interactive in ways that reflect how I think. So it can be searched by the those keywords and also by question and also by approach. So lastly, for the interview, I had 4 interviews with Critical Matter Group, and this year process might be different from mine. But a key thing to understand is that MAS applications are reviewed by individual PI rather than by a single department committee. So you have to list your top 3 labs, and then your first choice PI usually says your application first, and only if they drop you, then the next PI can take a look. So interview format is different from each labs. So for Critical Matter Group, my first interview was a conversation about previous work and my future directions. And the second one was a short research proposal. So I proposed a document and 3 alternative approaches so we could discuss design spaces rather than a single fixed plan. And the final stage included a culture fit conversation with CMG grad students. And one thing I want to emphasize on the interview process is that be honest about what you actually want to do, because every PI in Media Lab have a clear vision and they already have what next step they want to take. So if you pretend to fit something you don't care about, you will have a really, really hard time sustaining the work in the Media Lab. So use the interview to test not just like showing what you're interested in, but just testing like mutual fit between you and the group. And now I will share a few thoughts on MAS Life generally. I think the special thing about the Media Lab is that it's not a traditional research department. We have groups that are researching about space, like biology, learning, and psychology, or often all at once. So we are building for the next decade, not just for the next paper. So outcomes is really different. It could be a publication, but also an installation, probably intervention, data set, policy prototype, or a documentary. So if you only want to optimize for conventional metrics of just published papers, you might feel stretched here. So for example, in my cohort, my friend is in Space Enabled group, and she has literally launched a satellite before coming to Media Lab. But I came with less experience in physical fabrication, and I'm taking class to learn about it and learn together with my friend who launched a satellite. And I think it's really crazy experience, but it's really normal here. So you bring a specialty, but you also keep a general curiosity and a willingness to cross borders. You have a lot of multidisciplinary collaborations you couldn't have planned before. So I would say it's super like interesting and exciting place to be. Yeah, and also, sorry. a few like critical matter group specific questions. Our group is in the Morningside Academy for Design, and our projects often manifest as installation or like public media art. But under the hood, there's technical and design novelty that we bring to research venues. So we are both thinkers and makers. So it is necessary to be the maker experience, like experience in executing projects from concept to build an exhibition or deployment, and it is really needed. Regarding the degrees, many people ask about PhD, but currently the Media Lab PhD is only open to MAS degree holders, so you cannot directly apply to PhD. But visiting student opportunities exist for those already in master's or PhD programs elsewhere. So also a lot of people ask about what does the critical means in our group. For me, it doesn't just mean preventing harm or finding alternatives of technology, but it more means like designing technologies that open debate, tools that surface hidden assumptions and expand public imagination. If your work reveals the unseen layers of technology and society, or rethinks our relationship with nature, with each other, and with machines, and if you are comfortable with participatory design approach and community-centered methods, you will likely to resonate with Critical Matter Group. And yeah, thank you for listening. And if you have any questions, feel free to leave in the chat. We will go through it after Rui's presentation.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Ruipeng Wang. People also call me Ray. I'm also a first year MAS student at Critical Matter Group. I'm a media artist and architect. We're working on embodied installation and spatial system. And right now I'm doing some like installation and wave research in at Critical Matter Group. Before I met in Media Lab, I worked as a parametric architect at several architect studios. I made the Fab Uni and Jackson Architects, and then I completed my master's in fiction and entertainment at SARC in Los Angeles. After that, I served as a technical artist for a multi-agent simulation project commissioned by LACMA in Los Angeles. Yeah, here's show reels of my previous work. My past, present, and future focus is Ripple. I want to explore into media. One is the real water, the water ripple. Another is metaphoric, meaning is spatial ripple. Here's a short reel of my previous work involved like a digital simulation, installation, projection mapping, interactive design. So I'm not just doing digital work, I'm also doing a lot of like physical installation and try to bridge the digital and the physical together. Also, I'm since 2003, I served as exhibition director, curating and producing multiple international new media art exhibition, twice in LA, twice in London, once in Berlin, Thailand, Singapore, and some big exhibition in China. My ongoing exhibition I curated is happening in downtown Denver, the capital of Colorado. And also, I'm planning to bring some very similar art events and exhibition in Boston as well to continue become part of my research. Yeah, this is my current research. This demo is quite popular during our Members Day. Basically, the idea is just to connect the mind to the water. This research, I think, is I continue to develop my interest in ripple wave frequency and try to have a deeper understanding and research to think more behind it. And yeah, this project's very early stage, so I cannot show too much. Here's some of my suggestions. Yeah, I think for the application, I think direction matters. Especially you needed to know about why you choose critical matter. I do remember when I do the application, I only apply critical matter and only apply Media Lab. So yeah, so I think I have very clear goal. Second, like clearly show your strengths and make us very easy to find. The third is like speak with your work and also show the thinking behind it, which is very important. Finally, always open to collaboration and teamwork. You know, MIT Media Lab is a place to collaborate. You can totally do your own research, but in the end, you will collaborate with others. Here, I think you need also align your personal research with our group research, and then most of the time you need to collaborate with our teammates. Yeah, and here is also my tips at MAS. Basically I work very hard and yeah, and even I don't have weekends basically, but I pretty enjoy the process. But you know, at MIT, I feel like there are so many things happening. Yeah, you then okay. What happened? Yeah, I think for me, I prefer to speak with my work, but you still need to be very good at to articulate your idea and share with others and show the critical thinking behind your work. And finally, learn from others, and you will definitely benefit from them. Yeah, because people around you, they are wonderful. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's basically my part. Yeah, maybe right now we can jump to the Q&A session.
Thank you, all of you, Sergio, Setpiol, and Ray. Maybe stop sharing so we can see each other. Maybe all of your cameras on, and then we can take few Q&A. Thank you all. So we see a lot of messages. By the way, if you do have further question besides this open house, we encourage you to email Critical Matter at media.mit.edu. Maybe we can put that in the chat for everyone. And we will try to answer as much as possible. But I do want to mention that it's impossible for us to answer all the emails and all the requests. There are emails that we receive that they want to see us in person. I want to mention that it's impossible for us to give like a one-to-one feedback or meet with you in person. So please be mindful of your requests as well, because it's literally impossible for us to respond to everything. But if there is any question about the process or it's required some clarification, we would be more than happy to respond to those emails. And same with our researchers. They are very much busy with their work, so please be mindful of requesting their time. But with that, let's take a few questions. I'll just pass it on to you to answer some of these questions.
Should
we start from the first one? Yes.
So I think there is a lot of questions about the portfolio. How many projects do you typically want to see in a portfolio? If you have a couple relevant projects, do you recommend putting them all in or filtering for the top 3 to 4 best ones? So I made a portfolio in a website. So actually I put it all relevant projects, but I only mentioned 3 and 4 projects in my SOP, and also in the first landing page of the portfolio, I filtered that 3 and 4 projects in the top, so I to emphasize them. So I think ideally, like emphasizing 5 key projects of yours will be good. Yeah.
I just want to add one thing is that in applications, sometimes there is a lot of portfolio projects where we cannot tell if this is a group projects or if it's individual projects. So make sure if you're showing 3 to 5 works, you're specifying what, if it was a group projects, what was your role? If it was individual projects, well, that's fine, but just mention that. if I see, basically, if we see an amazing portfolio, but we have no idea if this was a group project or not, you would just lose your spot, basically. So make sure you specify your role and specifically what was your, basically, contribution to the project.
And the next question is about so I think this third question is overlapping with the first question. And Miranda asked about, I'd like you to know how many MES students the group plans to admit this year, and will all the applications receive interview notifications or not? I think Benas can. Yeah.
That. So we're looking to get 2 to 3 students this coming year. And as Cecile mentioned, I think both Cecile and Ray got 4 interviews, 3 interviews with me and 1 interview with the group members. So typically it can go up to 4 to 5 different interviews. It's very competitive. It's really about the fit. It's about how you write your proposal, how you write your cover letter, how you're putting together your portfolio. Yes, one thing that I think Cecile mentioned, which I want to a little echo more, is that when you're applying for Media Lab, you can choose 3 different groups. So you can choose your priority. So you can choose up to 3 different groups. All the PIs will see the groups that you're selecting, but personally, there's so much interest that I usually go for the first options. So if your first option is critical matter group, you can choose that as your first priority, and that actually affects a little. It's not that we don't look at the second option or third option, but there is just so much interest that usually I just, to be honest, look at the first option. If you're choosing critical matter as first option, usually you get more priority, and it's more alignments as well, which makes a lot of sense.
Oh, and I found a question about the visiting students. Yeah, Benas, would you like to answer this question?
Yes. So actually, I want to answer that, but I want to ask Sergio the next question about your experience working with undergrads and other visiting students. But let me maybe briefly mention that typically we have a lot of requests to join us as visiting students. At the moment, we have 3 visiting students, and we are at our capacity for the group. Typically, when we are looking for visiting students, we advertise it in our Instagram, Critical Matter Group Instagram. I request maybe one of you put it in the chat so everyone have access to it as well. So we usually advertise it either in our stories or in our posts, and then you can apply to become a visiting student. Now, for the postdoc, we don't have a position, but we are open, especially if you can find the funding yourself, and then we can discuss if it's a right fit to discuss for the postdoc position. But hasn't happened yet. So I'm open to hiring postdocs, but we don't have the funding at the moment, but we can see if there's a right fit. And if you can find the funding from your end, we can explore that option. And then maybe I pass it on to Sergio, because one thing that is happening here, if you are admitted as a graduate student, one thing that you will be doing a lot of time is the group projects that we are doing. We're working as group a lot of time, and you're directing group of undergraduate students and visiting students. So you're working in the team, you have to put everyone together, all the tasks needs to be distributed. And Sergio has been with us for almost a year right now. And maybe Sergio, you can speak a little about that experience.
Sure. So yeah, so as Benas was saying, there's like lots of different people coming to the group to collaborate. So we have undergrad students in this like undergrad research program at MIT that join the lab, and there's quite a few of them. And also we have visiting students. So most of our projects are done in teams, so we need to collaborate. Usually, researchers at the lab will be leading a team, leading a research project. So you'll be working with all these other people, coordinating to make the projects work. Some of the students are like brilliant, but like, schedules are always difficult, and typical things you would have like on group projects you need to deal with all the time. But it's also like very fun and rewarding because everybody brings something different.
And maybe Setpiel or Ray, you can speak a little about our group meetings, that how often we meet, and how is the culture of meetings and things that is happening in the group.
Yes, for the group meeting, we're having meetings in every 3 weeks, and it's like all the teams are gathering together and updating about their research process. And also we are having a one-on-one meeting with Banaz about our own research.
And we also have a Discord channel. So our communication happens all the time. Sometimes when we have deadline, we just text each other over weekend or at night and updating each other, basically, if you have a deadline. But if you don't have a deadline, things are still calmer, but still our communication happens a lot of time on Discord channel. So we have more accessible way of engaging with one another. So it's really a lively culture that we're trying to also cultivate more and more, to work together more seamlessly, rather than sending an email or setting an appointment and waiting for those things. We really want to engage with one another very immediately. So that's very important for us. Communication is a huge, important factor. And I want to say, in terms of like admitting students, it's really, that is one thing that is very important. I mean, one thing is how competent you are in terms of your technical execution or your skill sets. The other thing is about your sort of engagement in the group, your openness to work with one another, to have that group mental mindset. So it's less about sort of, this is my project, this is what I'm working on, but how can you work as a team, meet with the undergrads, make sure they're on their tasks, work together, make them excited. Everyone is excited about a common goal. This is really, really important for us, especially as a new group here in Media Lab.
Maybe touching on that, something that is, I think, worth mentioning is that we also like to be in the space. So because we like, this like team collaboration, well, the idea is to be in the space as much as possible, and everybody has their own like crazy schedules because of MIT. But we like being there and like helping each other out and collaborating physically. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little different to a lot of perhaps to many different academic environments. It is a lively environment. Media Lab has its own culture. MIT itself has its own culture. There is a lot happening at MIT at large. There's a lot happening in Media Lab. So I often think that it's very important to protect yourself, to don't get overstretched with things, because there's a lot of exciting things, a lot of exciting opportunity. But at the same time, we encourage everyone to be at the space as much as possible to inspire one another and work with one another seamlessly. So as Sergio mentioned, to be present in our physical environment, in our lab. We have an amazing lab space on the 4th floor of Media Lab, tall ceiling and plenty of natural light. So it is incredible. And we want to make sure our graduate students and undergrads use the space most effectively. What other questions we have?
Another question is about how does the group determine which issues to explore next? So yeah. For me, I think my previous works were a lot about like sexual abuse and how technology can mitigate it, or how can technology reveal and raise the awareness about it. So I am currently working more on this on the critical matter group. And I think it's important to make your interest to meet the group's general interest and like how to pursue this issue and the method of the critical matter group. And
yeah, maybe I just mentioned when Setbul and Ray, both of them, I think they make it to the first round or second round. We already were working on Gaze to the Star. So I gave them, we gave them 2 different design challenge and saying that, okay, if you're part of these projects, what would be your proposal? So sometimes we do have a bigger group projects that we're working on a topic. So if it's about domestic violence or about issues of feminism. So we are already working on something. We already maybe received a grant. And then in the interview, I might ask you like, okay, like how your engagement would be around this topic. Then I give you a sort of a challenge. It's a mini challenge. So you come up with some solution that how you would address it. And from there, we see how everything unfolds, basically. So the idea is that you would come to the group, either is because your personal research statement is perfectly aligned with the group, or your idea that how it would align with the future direction of the group would match perfectly. There is no one answer. It's really about, again, maybe echoing what Setbul says, being honest about what matters to you, what makes it exciting to you to present your own work, but also maybe it's a future direction that you're really interested to explore with us, to mention that in your application. That would be extremely helpful.
Yeah, another person asking what's the balance between physical R&D and digital R&D and in critical matter, and how do members flow between those roles? I think based on my experience, like I'm more like a maker. I try to combine my demo test with my critical thinking, but I think each person they have their own strengths. So that's why I mentioned the show your strengths clearly is very important. Yeah. So in this way, we can like collaborate with other people. Maybe we can balance within the group. Yeah. So
yeah. So definitely it's not that, as I think maybe Sergio answered also in one of the questions, it's not about just being physical. Like if you don't have physical installation, you'll be completely out. Or if you're having just basically digital, you'll be out. It's really about your way of thinking. It can be for fashion application. Your background can be like furniture design, or it can be installation design, or you can be a media artist. It really doesn't matter what is the medium. The most important is what are you trying to do, or where you're trying to go with it. That vision is more important than what is a specific application or what is the specific medium. Because I think it's more about alignments of what are you trying, what is your vision, what are you interested, or what have you been thinking through your work. And sometimes some applicants, they're really strong with physical making and robotics and digital fabrication. That is your strength. And so play with that strength. I'm not saying that you have to change that. So that strength also matters for us. But if you're all of a sudden you're a media artist with a strong critical thinking capabilities, and you have some bigger visions for how we can apply critical thinking with media arts, make sure you explicitly elaborate on that. So depending on your angle, it's really important to accentuate your strengths. Whatever the strengths of your work is, make sure you demonstrate that. And then we are looking for both ends, for people that they're amazing in making digital fabrication, digital technologies, robotic fabrication, and people who are critical technologists who think through technology in a critical way. So we are equally interested in both, and both applicants can have a strong chance.
Yeah, for unpublished or under review work, is it preferable to use a password protected portfolio webpage or to submit individual cloud drive links with the application?
Oh, this is a great question. It happens that we got applicants and they send their portfolio, they send a Vimeo link to their work, and they forgot to send a password. Like you will like automatically lose your chance without you even knowing. So I want to just tell you, like, always have the habit of making sure if you are putting it in any type of password protected websites, cloud, Vimeo, it's okay, but make sure your password is included, and because it happens so often, you would be surprised that people put things in without putting the password. So I'm not like even, they just lose the chance. No one is going to follow up with you saying that, hey, you forgot to send a password in hundreds of applicants. So make sure you do include that. Remember, one thing I want to mention to all of our applicants is that remember, not only for my group, every other group here in Media Lab, you would have very limited time that someone look at your portfolio just maybe under a minute. So you want to be very impactful, less protection of like, oh, you have to go through this link and then go through this link or copy paste this password. The more seamless you make this experience, the higher chance you have that your portfolio is being seen and understood, and so make sure that it's not like highly inaccessible. And if it is, you want to make sure that it has password protection, make sure it is included. Is there any other question? I see some they want to have your contact. I think if you're emailing Critical Matter, they can already reach us, like all of us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But feel free if anyone wants to share their email address also.
Also, is it possible to apply exclusively to the Critical Matter group without listing other Media Lab groups? I think you can do it. So in the application process, you can enter 3 different groups, and it says in the SOP, you have to list those 3 groups in the top of the SOP. But if you are only interested in Critical Matter group, you can just mention Critical Matter group only.
Yeah, that's correct.
Ray was, when he applied, he just had us as one group, but you can choose up to 3, so it doesn't matter really. So you, while you're applying, you can have 3 different groups listed. And I want to say this because it doesn't mean that, so sometimes you might apply for my group as the first priority, but I might see that, for instance, your application is perfect for another group. So PIs do talk to one another. So sometimes like you're an amazing applicant, but not perfect fit for my group, and then maybe for another group. So then I would talk to that PI and say that I think this applicant is really good for your group. So people in Media Lab, especially all these PIs, would talk to one another. And we have a session where we are talking that maybe you need to look at this specific person because this is perfect for your group. So feel free to list the second and third choices for your Media Lab options.
And what kind of applicant tends to create synergy within your group as well as the Media Lab environment?
Synergy?
Yeah.
Huh. I mean, I don't know. I guess to create synergy, I guess people would need to like be open to engage with all the things that are happening here, right?
Yeah.
So within the group, there's like also lots of stuff happening, and you would like somebody that creates a lot of synergy with like in touch with all of that. And at the Media Lab, again, lots of things happening. So I guess if you're more prone to collaboration, to like look at new ways of thinking, new perspectives, very curious, you would create a lot of synergy at the Media Lab and at the group. Yeah.
Yeah. I super agree with it. I think curiosity is really important because outside of just working inside the group, we have a lot of like grant opportunity, like AHA grant and other consortium grant opportunity that we can apply by like cross Media Lab research. So like really being open to the domain that you didn't explore before is really important, and like just caring about what technology can do in the future and is really important, I think. Yeah. And do I have to be expert level on one of the fields, or is it okay if I know a bit about all of them? Do you?
I think you can I think you can have you can be expert in one of them, or you can be expert in multiple of them. Obviously, if you're even just one of them, but then you have interest into other layers, that would be amazing. But it's not required that you have to be good at all of them at once. So you could be grounded in one of those areas, but then maybe have interest in the other areas. It's really about how you're seeing also like you will perform in the group, like in a bigger picture. But you definitely want to ground it in your strengths. So if your strengths is, let's say, biomaterials, you can just tap into that, explaining what you have done, what type of projects you work on, and what is the vision for future, right? And how does that align with, you know, critical matter? That's very important for us, how you're laying out this foundation.
And I found people ask about the international applicants. Maybe Sabir, you can talking about.
Yeah. For this year, it was kind of tricky, and there was a lot of issues regarding getting the visa and entering the US. But I think MIT General and also specifically Media Lab admin is really supportive on international students. So I didn't have a problem on getting the visa and coming here. So I think you don't really have to be worried about if I get admitted and I cannot enter US or not. But yeah, I think Media Lab admin will support if you lose the chance to get a visa. So yeah, I think in application process, you don't have to really worry about this. Yeah.
One comment, I know we are 3 minutes to wrap up. One comment I want to emphasize again on portfolio. If you are adding a lot of group projects, make sure you do add 1 or 2 individual projects. The most important thing I want to see in your portfolio, or I think any PI would like to see, is that what have you built or made in the past on your own? So besides the group project, which is very important, if you're adding, let's say, all of your projects or group projects, make sure you have 1 project that is individual project. It can be something small that you made, but it just shows that what you have done on your own as well. So make sure you have the good balance of group projects versus individual projects.
And also for the last question, I think there is several questions about the funding. So I think we can talk about it and wrap up.
Sure. So yeah, that's a good question. So one thing is funding at Media Lab is very generous in general for graduate students. Most graduate students are fully funded for both tuition, but also they get paid very generous stipend. And each of these comes from tied to every group. So it's not like just come from MIT. Every group hire their own graduate students. Now, while in the past, usually the 2 years is fully funded, right now we are encouraging the first year fully funded and full stipend. And for the second year, we are exploring that that's basically depending on their performance. Usually doesn't mean that it's not, but we want to make sure that we also apply for grants from outside for our graduate students, which has happened a lot of that in MIT. We have many grant opportunities which we can nominate, and you might have to help with writing those grants to make sure that your second year we receive some grant that helps with your process. But in general, I can confidently say that Media Lab in general has a very generous offer for graduate students. from their stipend, insurance, as well as you will receive a stipend monthly for your living expenses in Boston. But maybe either of you any of you want to add any other things to that, feel free to do that, and then we can wrap up soon.
Yeah, the funding is really great because all of like other US institutions doesn't give the fund for the master's student degree, but Media Lab is doing that. So yeah, I think it's good to be here.
Yeah, with that, maybe that so coming from outside the Media Lab, there's also like lots of opportunities to work at MIT, like as a TA, as independent array. So even if perhaps that second year isn't as clear or something, like I think you would definitely find a way to fund your studies. There's lots of opportunities to apply to.
Yeah,
Amazing.
A lot of free food and
Right.
enjoy your time at the Media Lab.
Yeah, it's a culture of free food, which is great.
Yeah.
That is true. Well, that's a good note. It's at noon here, it's lunchtime, and that's a good note to end with. I want to thank our amazing graduate students, Setbiol, Ray, and Sergio for joining. And I want to thank all of our live streamers for joining us today. We are looking forward to your application, and yeah, please feel free to email us criticalmatter at MIT media sorry, criticalmatter at media.mit.edu, and we will do our best to answer all of your questions. With that, thank you so much. We will also share the recording of this session in our application page later today. Thank you all. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.